continuing here at the Detroit Auto Show, the North American International Auto Show, here from Roadshow at theroadshow.com. We are a two-day-old site now, brought to you by CNET, as we brought together all of our automotive assets under Tim Stevens, our editor-in-chief. And we are pleased to continue now with a talk with someone very important from BMW.
Right, we've seen some impressive BMW reveals at the show thus far, and to give us more color on that is Ludwig Willisch, CEO of BMW North America. Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
Now, we saw two cars unveiled. I got to say my favorite of the two is probably the M2. This is basically bringing the M badge to a bit of a smaller car. Can you walk me through some of the modifications to make the 2 Series into a proper M?
Well, if you just look at it, you just see the car has grown in stance. We actually changed quite a bit of the sheet metal, so the car does come along much more dynamically and just looking powerful at standstill. Well, then it does have a aluminum suspension that's very close to the one that the M3 and the M4 have. It has a 365 horsepower inline 6. What else could a proper BMW have?
Mm-hmm.
And it goes from 0 to 60 in 4.1 seconds. That makes it, the most compact, dynamic BMW we have. Actually, our customers have been talking to us for quite a while because at our press conference we also showed the 1974 BMW 2002 Turbo.
Which was absolutely
so that's
gorgeous.
The grandfather to that car, really.
Lines, yeah.
170 horsepower, which was incredible for those days,
Mm-hmm.
and also an acceleration at the time of 7 seconds. That was sports car country where they were in, and now, so to say, 40 years later, we come up with the M2 for the first time.
And were you bringing that out to really soften the blow of the turbochargers in the new car? Because there are some people who complain about having turbos in modern cars.
But if you drive our cars, you don't really feel that they're turbocharged.
Mm-hmm.
It does have to do with efficiency of the engine in total, and you can't do without turbocharging in today's world if you want to have a super efficient engine, and yet it should rev, which the engine does.
X4 M40i was the other unveil. You've
Glad
done.
you said it, not me. That's a long name.
I got it all, didn't I?
You
In
did.
the right order. You guys have done all the spade work of really creating a category out of the sport activity vehicle that deserves M branding. When the X6 came out, a lot of folks shook their head and go, "You're trying too hard." And now you're continuing to push the sport coupe roofline, more performance than practicality, a sports activity vehicle, and it seems like it's working.
It does work. Of course, it is a niche, but we got really excited after having had the first generation X6 in the market, and it exceeded our expectations. So why not try an X4 on basis of the X3? And it's doing well. And customers again ask for a little bit more sportiness, a bit more appearance, presence, stance on the road. And here we go with 355 horsepower and 4.7 seconds from 0 to 60. And superb road holding. Also, the suspension has been tweaked. So it is the M40i.
And I was one of those skeptics when the X6 came out, but I've spent actually a fair bit of time in the X6M driving around the track in Atlanta, or in Austin, excuse me.
Yeah.
And blew my mind. Absolutely unbelievable how well such a monster handles on the track. Was pretty impressive. So the M2 is basically a replacement for the old 135M, and then we've got the new M SUV effectively. How many more M's are coming? Where can we expect to see an M next, perhaps?
Well, not so much in the near future. We have no plans to expand the model lineup right now. I think with the M2, M3, M4, M5, M6, we're doing pretty
You've got
well.
all your numbers covered at this point. So we've also seen a lot of interest on the i brand here in the United States. We've got the i3, which is the fully electric car, and the i8, which is the plug-in hybrid sports car. A lot of people are hoping for maybe a sportier, maybe an M version of an i car. Could you have an IM or an MI or whatever combination that would be? An M?
Well, you might want to call it i-performance car.
Sure.
We're thinking about that, but nothing has been decided.
Now, as we look at your rollout here, the i-cars were also extremely exotic when they first arrived a few years ago on the auto show circuit. You're starting to build that out to not just be a matter of efficiency and powertrain and performance, and in the i8's case, dramatic lines. You've got an interesting message that you're showing off on the i8 of a new kind of gesture control. And you're already in your second generation of showing gesture, and you just launched it on the new 7.
Yeah.
Why is it so important to get that sort of technology right when you're the ultimate driving machine?
In order to be focused on what you really want to do, driving. Meaning that you don't have to look for a button, you don't have to look for any device, it's just there with the gesture control of the future. You even have a little resistance by an airstream that you can really feel what you're pushing, because right now what you do is you go like this, you go like this, you go like this, and the car does what it's told to do initially. But in the future we'll even touch a little airstream that you know you've hit exactly the button that you wanted to hit. Rather than being somewhere out there
without
in front
feedback.
Without feedback in front of the dashboard, and you don't initially know if you have done the right thing.
Without taking your eyes off and looking at the
Yeah.
dash to see if it got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
A new generation of haptics, mid-air haptics. That's interesting. I hadn't heard that before.
Never heard that one before.
No, absolutely. That sounds pretty, especially on a hot day. That sounds pretty nice.
You know, we started with head-up display, so you would not have to take your eyes off the windscreen because your major information is there. And now we also don't want you to look for any button. We want you to be concentrated on what you're doing and just go like this. But you feel that you're touching something.
Yeah, interesting. In the very crowded space between BMW, Mercedes, Lexus, and then a tier down Audi, but growing, we know the ultimate driving machine mantra. But take that apart, or take that aside. What is really behind your competitiveness in the sector? When you get right down to it at the everyday sales level, what's really making the business work in this country?
The enthusiasm about the cars, about the fact that we drive differently our cars. Even in your driveway, you already feel you're sitting in a BMW. You know, it starts with the seat, it starts how you grab the steering wheel, the engine sound, if it's not electric, but the precision of the steering, that all gives you a different feedback than other cars do. So you could even be blindfolded. You would be able to identify a BMW without driving. And that's our mantra.
And once someone has identified that and responded to it as a consumer, then what do you have to do with pricing and in the showroom, with that dealer experience, from the idea of I first understand what will it cost, and then the experience I go through. What are you doing there that you think is unique or gives you an advantage?
Well, first of all, let the product speak for itself. Sit in the car, hit the accelerator, or release the clutch, or whatever you need to do, get the thing moving, and have the customer experience the drive. See, you know, this is, do I like this, do I don't? The test drive is the most convincing argument that we have in the whole sales process.
Okay, so it keeps coming back to ultimate driving machine.
Yeah.
Hands-on, tactile.
Well, you know, obviously it needs to be the ultimate driving machine in its segment. An i3 obviously drives differently than an X6, and an X6 drives differently than a 7 Series, but they're all drivers' cars. They're all fun. They're all fun to drive. That's the common denominator.
Autonomy has been one of the bigger themes of the show. We've seen some major announcements from Volvo and from Mercedes-Benz as well. In the 7 Series, it's beginning to get to the point of autonomy where you can take your hands off the wheel for, I think, about 15 seconds, if I remember correctly. What's the next step for BMW beyond that? Is it extending that amount of time? Is it extending the amount of speed? How are we taking the step from there to a fully autonomous? Because it won't just be an overnight thing.
Well, there are obviously quite a few use cases where you think even the ultimate driving machine does not give me that much fun that I want it to give me. When you're in a traffic situation, bumper to bumper, when you want to park, when you get your car out of the garage, and I think we'll see in a not too far distant future, the car will come out of the garage by itself. It will also go back into the garage by itself. It will also park by itself. It will also be able to follow the flow of a traffic situation where you're crawling along for maybe even more than 10 minutes or 20 minutes, the car will move on and you can do your emails or do whatever you want without running any risk that you're not paying attention. The car will do it for you. But once you're in a little winding road back in Connecticut where I live, you want to grab that steering wheel and have fun.
Absolutely.
Last question we have to ask you before you go. What are you driving right now out of the BMW lineup?
A new 7 Series, of course.
Ah, of course. Why is there no M7? Now, your competitors tend to have performance models of their top sedans.
Wait and see.
Oh.
Uh-huh.
I think
like
we hit the,
I'm going to end on that.
We got the right question.
All
Nice
right.
job.
Very good. Mr. Willisch, thank you for your time.
My pleasure.